We are all exhausted, and we are recording the Bleeding Tree Gaming Treecast. And we were going to tease Warpfiend for being burnt out, but I think she's the only one without an active back injury at the moment.
Yay for spines. Who'd be a vertebrate?
Other injuries I do indeed have, but
I would like to be a mollusk.
must be nice.
It would be nice not to have horrendous sciatica because you don't have a spine.
You just kind of stick to things.
If it wasn't for the number of minis I wanted to keep in my life, I'd retire to a little cottage and just eat roots and soup all the time.
I'm sure you can get minis delivered to cottages now.
Or a van.
They've got the internet now.
Get yourself a shipping container. They're only like $3 or $4 grand.
Yeah, then it's keeping it on damp.
Hello, we are Bleeding Tree Gaming.
Yes.
We're all tired, but we're determined to record.
We will record. We will persevere.
We are recording on the equipment I nearly perforated myself with the other day.
Yep, and we don't have a Cassie helping us, so we had to figure this all out by ourselves.
Well, she did set everything up. It's just, I think she kind of overestimated our technical ability.
Yes.
We won't mention the house alarm being confused for
well, it's all part of the
lights.
process. You've got to understand there's a way to do these
See, it
things.
looks like a light switch, but it's actually a fuse that's been disconnected, and when I reconnected the fuse, the alarm started going off.
Yes.
Which is why the residents of the house handed me a random house alarm booklet. I say random because it doesn't have the same brand names as the house alarm.
No, which is annoying, but then I just remembered to pull the fuse back out. You don't need a code if you can attack it at source.
I thought the house alarm was an electrical box.
So, introductions. I'm Amy, aka Warpfiend.
I'm Peter.
I'm Tammy, aka Autumn Witch, aka the sister of Prattle.
The Hunchback of No Tam.
And the Hunchback of Notre Dame as well, yeah.
No, Tam.
Yeah. So, it's been an interesting one.
Oh, wait. We're supposed to be officially a podcast.
Yes.
Which is why we have a slide reminding me to remind everyone that you can listen to us on Acast.
All of the podcast places.
Pretty much. I think there was one that wanted me to push more buttons, and we were arguing about something else.
If people really want to watch it on the button pushing ones, then we will prod Peter to push the buttons. But
I think it's like Apple Podcasts that it's not on.
Apple Podcasts.
Because I've got to tell them, like I've got to upload it by hand or something.
Maybe we should do that at some point. It seems like one that would be a good platform.
I can check if I'm on.
I know, I'm dubious with Apple.
Yeah, well, people listen to stuff on there at least, so...
Yes, but are they our kind of people? Probably, actually.
I had a very long
Apple
argument
people.
with someone who kept telling me to set up a blog once, and I set up a blog. And
What is it, 2002?
And like I kept showing them the blog, and they're like, "No, a blog, no, a blog, no, a blog." No, they'd meant a Squarespace site.
We're not sponsored by Squarespace.
No,
we seem to be the only ones
but
not sponsored by Squarespace.
There's lots of people who aren't sponsored by Squarespace. No, but
yes, but they don't matter.
But so you're saying that we don't matter. No,
yes,
so
we are irrelevant.
But the confusion was that when they said blog, they meant professionally hosted Squarespace website, rather than a website on the Works website.
I mean, to be fair, that's on them for being wrong.
If somebody says podcast and then they get mad that you're not on their brand of podcast hosting, that's frustrating, but not technically incorrect.
So, I see hobby progress first up.
We need a little bit of like easy listening music to just go over this section.
Anyway, so you painted red blood angels.
I did, but I painted them in a very retro Rogue Trader style, and they are so bright red that I think it's they've burnt my retina, which was the style at the time, bright red.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just like a little patrol detachment that can be played in pretty much any edition of the game. It's like that awesome Rogue Trader era Terminator captain, some beaky marines, one of the really old janky looking dreadnoughts, and a 3D printed Rhino, and it came out a lot better than I thought it would. I released the video, and then there was something wrong with it, so I re-released the video this week. So if people want to see some retro Rogue Trader hobby goodness,
it's a good timing for it as well with the 35th anniversary, yeah?
Oh yes.
GW have done their take on some classic stuff recently.
Yeah, their take on some classic stuff is basically taking the new stuff and painting it in the old paint schemes, and yeah.
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 Mm-hmm. Well, my hobby progress has been
I think I put those in.
Golden Demon.
You were at Golden Demon, Amy. You never mentioned it.
You also painted some bad Squidoo stuff that I got excited about, but I put into the slides before without asking you.
Okay.
So, Amy, do you want to talk about the bad Squiddo stuff, and then we can go on to your shiny new earrings?
Yeah. I mean, I've done so much since I finished these. It's the dungeon cleaning gobbos from Bad Squiddo. Annie's said she has some that are painted green in a kind of like fantasy style, so she wanted some that were in like a Necromunda theme. And they're just so cute. They've got so much character to them. They're very tiny models, but I had a lot of fun kind of just bringing out the little playful details to each one. My favourite one, you can't quite tell in this picture, but the middle one, it's based on the one from Golden Axe, the little imp that runs around with the blue bottles that you have to hit. Mm-hmm. And
that's another blast from the past.
Yeah.
Everything's just really retro early 90s at the
one.
moment.
So it's the one it's the one with the green hat. Well, sorry, I thought there were 6 of them, but there's 7, and you said middle.
Yes. That is how there is a middle one. Mm-hmm. And the other one there you've picked up is the Nature Guardian, I believe it's called. It's just a little cute little hedgehoggy, rodenty, like nature spirit creature with a lovely fairy riding on top.
Yay.
It was a fun one. That's a Ristal Creations sculptor, I think. I don't know who did the other one. Possibly Ristal again. Seems like everything I paint for Annie lately is by Ristal Creations. So
I was at a friend's and she had a large purple box on her mail pile.
Mm-hmm.
That was, of course, a box from Annie, and we got
lovely.
Very excited and started making squeaky noises.
Yeah, I do love how every time you get a Bad Squiddo box through, it feels like an event. It's something special.
I believe
it's like badges and stuff. And
mm-hmm. I think there was a spare lizard that fell into the box, and my friend was very excited that she now had another lizard.
Lizards get everywhere.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, since this, I've just been Golden Demon. I finished up my diorama, which took 10 months. Absolutely huge project. I super enjoyed it. I'm super happy with the end result. Although there is a lot of things that I did not have time to do. I ended up kind of going for a more kind of realistic weathered look on the background when I was going to paint it all in very like high grade non-metallic metal, just because I did not have time to do all that. I didn't win. I got a finalist pin.
Yeah, but those finalist pins, they don't just hand them out to anyone. And you got 2 of them.
So I finished the first set of buildings, and I like them,
Yeah, they're
and they
very
look cool, and I
They have
want
a
to
very
paint more.
pleasant, whimsical
Yes,
game.
And the doggo.
and they're varnished.
Yeah.
The doggo I painted for a date that didn't happen. I thought I'd give dog instead of flowers.
That is always an acceptable date present.
Yeah, well, now it's not because I made it for someone else.
Oh dear.
You can always recycle as long as you don't tell them. As long as they don't listen to this.
Fuck off, Tammy.
Well, it's,
And then the rest of it's just been me plowing through the Stormcast Eternals, or the Stormcast Sequitors.
Yep, you seem to have more of those done every day.
I feel like both of these so with the two finished groups that I've got, with both of them, I thought they were going to be done slightly before. With both of them, it was this annoying thing of it gets to wicked late at night, and I've just got to paint the rim of the base and add the green shades to the stones on the base, so it looks like stuff. But it's midnight, and I really should. It'll take me 5 minutes, and then it'll like the next day it'd be 11:30, and I'd be like, oh, I gotta go to bed. Wait, I just gotta do those. So with both of those, go to bed on time, kids, but also do the work the next day.
Well, you can get those like trays, like the cushiony bit in the middle, so you can like eat in bed. You could just take your miniatures to bed.
No, I've got-
and paint.
I have
paint
tried
them.
that before. I actually painted a great unclean one in bed once. It was quite messy. I spilt paint in my bed.
I also don't sleep very well, so my entire bedroom's blacked out. There's no light in there. It's great.
See, my sleep is chemically induced, so it doesn't matter how bright it is. I'm just unconscious for 8 hours a day. It's fantastic.
Yep.
All right. So there was a joke about Disco Elysium out of randomness, but that's a computer game, so we don't want to.
And none of this newfangled gaming mediums.
We don't want to talk about the funny thing with that.
Go ahead.
Go on.
I know. Disco Elysium.
Proceed.
So Disco Elysium was the darling child of Critical Games a year or two ago. It was made by people who had started a band and couldn't quite get the creative momentum they wanted with a band, so they...
You say a year or two ago. Wasn't that 2017 or so?
Yeah, that's
The last 2 years don't count because they were shit.
3. The last 3 years
Last
don't
3
count
years don't count because they
of
were
the
shit.
pandemic, but anyway, so I guess those people, or most of those people, have been pushed out of their own studio by the investors because they didn't want to make Disco Elysium 2.
Oh, well, that kind of sucks.
They wanted to make like new games, new
Yeah.
ideas, and keep exploring things. So it sort of sucks, but it's also going to be hilarious because the studio's just going to make like Disco Elysium 6, 7, and it's kind of like trying to make a hardcore RTS and then wondering why it doesn't sell. There are like 100 people who buy a hardcore RTS and 20,000 who buy an RTS with a single player campaign and love it. And if you're just going to like the 10 people who play StarCraft 10 hours a week and saying what do you want in a new game, you're only going to get those people who play. So trying to turn Disco Elysium into a like Call of Duty style series isn't gonna. Anyway, it's gonna be fun and probably gonna be the reason someone says role playing games are dead.
Yeah. Okay.
I mentioned the Half-Life mod Day of Defeat like 3 or 4 episodes ago, and someone contacted me on Facebook to say, that's what you meant, right? And I was like, yes!
Ah, right. Okay. We stand corrected.
Cursed City is sold out.
Cursed City.
It's
no
the
more.
gift that keeps on giving.
Except you can't give it because
Because it's
Because
sold
Because of
out.
supply issues.
So I've been told this is only Goblin Gaming, and everyone else you can still buy it from the web store. And it's only Goblin Gaming because they tried to buy so many. Was it Goblin Gaming who tried to buy all the Imperium magazine issues, and Hatchet was like, no. They ordered something like 100 or 1,000 stock of the flesh walkers, flesh eaters, flayed ones.
Flayed ones, yeah.
Because the flayed one kits are 35 pounds, but this 8 quid magazine had the same sprue, so Goblin Gaming ordered a bunch of them, or somebody ordered a bunch of them, and then their stock allocation by the manufacturer was cut to like 10 issues because no, hush.
Yeah. So, like all of these are struggling to get stock, or that was just Goblin Gaming was.
Yeah, sorry. So, but yeah, no, the bigger dad on the internet said you're making it up. So everyone's making it up. All the friendly local game stores are getting their stock that they were promised.
Okay.
But the Outpost in Sheffield I checked has none. I didn't think to check Element Games because then I went to look at the Games Workshop website, and Games Workshop doesn't have any more stock of the Cursed City expansion. So it's like the playing cards from Blackstone Fortress all over again. They make like one run of them, and then when they sell out, they're like, "Well, nobody wants to buy new ones from the physical stores, so why would we bother?"
I don't know. I've stopped caring about Cursed City at the minute. It's too much drama. They were nice models. I loved Blackstone Fortress, but it's just one thing after another. I don't have the energy to keep up with a product that like they can't seem to reliably keep in stock.
Yeah, I think when I heard it was sold out, I was surprised that I didn't experience any emotion. I would have expected to be as angry about that as when I...
Not angry, just disappointed.
Angry or disappointed, yeah. I was neither. Before Ninth Edition was announced or anything, I tried to order the Dark Imperium set, or I ordered the Dark Imperium set. I bought some of the Conquest magazines and liked it, so I ordered the Dark Imperium set. And kept asking the store, and they were like, yeah, we don't know what's going on. Games Workshop keeps saying they'll ship it in the next round of production. And then suddenly they refunded the money and they say it's out of production. And then a month later, or a week later, or whatever, was the reveal.
Yeah.
For
Well, what can you do? It's always something with Cursed City.
We should make our own Cursed City.
One might say it's
cursed.
Dun dun dun. Right, so what we got next then? Moving swiftly on.
Vallejo is making their own contrast.
Oh, Vallejo Express.
And I've got this terrible, terrible slide that I'll correct at some point. Probably nobody will see it.
Well, I can see it, and I'm absolutely appalled.
Maybe it'll be a good slide.
Now, the video was it John Hidalgo?
Yeah. Who also, I remember, did a Cursed City video and then made the video and made the basing video and then, like, was ready to publish it right when we all worked out that the first round of Cursed City was limited.
Yeah, so, I mean, in theory, yeah, the video is really interesting. It's been a while since I watched it now, so I can't remember too many specifics. But he was just talking about how, they're very matte. And this is, like, something that is a huge problem with contrast paints. I hate how glossy they get, particularly if you're using thick layers of them. But a matte contrast paint is very, very intriguing.
With the Stormcast I had up around on the previous slide, it's sort of the first time I've really tried using heavy layers of Agrex Earth Shader or Null Oil. So hearing that if I try to do this with contrast, it gets glossy and satiny, it's like, but
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
also
I mean, it's not too much of a problem because obviously you have matte varnish, and I tend to do it a lot. But it would just be nice to be able to skip out that step, because I don't think anyone is really looking for like, oh yeah, I want to paint this red and also make it glossy in one step. Like, maybe you do want to make it glossy, but you don't need to do it in your base coat. Use a varnish for that.
Yeah. I mean, I find that some of the contrast paints aren't overly glossy. I find some of them can be... So Ultramarines Blue can be quite matte.
I am yet
Can
to
it
see
be
through to that.
quite Matt Ward?
Dun
Get
dun
out.
dun.
I also find that thinning them with Lamium Medium also takes a lot of the gloss off.
Yeah, but then they're not really contrast, are they?
Yeah.
that's not what the branding says.
Contrast is a tool, not a complete system.
That's not what the branding says.
Well, the branding is bollocks.
No, that's
Maybe-
socialism.
Maybe for a standard painter, like,
Like
the
me.
amount of gloss you get in those is not even noticeable, but for someone who has everything ultra matte, like, I don't think any of the contrast paints are matte. None of them I've tried, certainly. They're not matte enough. Let no light be reflected. I want it all just absorbed by that paint.
Personally, I'm torn because I kind of
Sat down funny.
no, it was switching on the PC, but I'm torn about whether or not I want to be excited about this
Because it's Vallejo, and
I still get excited about Vallejo branding.
See, I love the Vallejo
Yeah.
air range, not to use to an airbrush, just because they're already really thin, and I just can't be asked to like faff about trying to get the paint the right
See,
consistency.
I wasn't one of the people who got the Vallejo range at first because I started with Games Workshop range
Yeah.
and was like, oh, I might as well get these rather than start another range. But then I went via scale 75, and then I'm just like, oh, I'm going to try all the paints. And now I am actually going back, and I am quite into the Model Air and the Game Colour ranges. And yeah, obviously, I'm sure I don't have to tell this to many of the people out there, but they're great colours. What can you say? A Vallejo quality contrast paint I'm looking forward to.
My only reservation at this stage is that the spelling of express really is the sort of thing.
Does it start with an X?
Because
Right
it's,
there on the
they,
screen.
they dropped the first
Where is it?
vowel.
Oh yeah, Express. There we go. I mean, there surely should be a dash after X if they're going to do it that way, or like a lowercase e in front of the X to emphasize the X, but still be actually spelled fucking correctly.
Looks fine to me. But yeah, that's
I do want to try the scale 75 contrast thing.
new paint range, more to scale 75 contrast.
Magic color?
Magic colour. I don't know I've seen those.
I am
Instant
loving
color.
I am loving the
Instant
intensity
colour.
range.
They have like a box, and it looks like they have a box. They call it a magic chest, and it comes with like brushes and spare medium, and a wooden box.
I haven't seen those. I do have like most of the scale 75 range, apart from the artist colours.
Which I've got open on my phone for unrelated reasons, and it's like, oh look, they list the ingredients.
Yeah, the artist colours look amazing, but I don't want to. It's another range of paints to invest in.
So the scale 75 has a couple of 8-bottle sets of their instant color with like summon potions or berserk potions, and then a wooden mimic chest.
Oh,
This wooden mimic
I have
chest,
seen
which is-
those ones. I didn't realise they were like a contrast thing. I didn't even know.
wish.
I'll have to give those a go as well. More things.
Maybe not for the 219 euros the wooden box full of paints cost.
I mean,
but
to be fair, it wouldn't be that expensive if the pound hadn't fucking tanked.
it would still be 214 euros.
Yeah. But the pound fucking tanked, so exchange rates have gone to shit. Don't want to get overly political, but it's going to be a
I
pretty
think
tough time for ordering in stuff from
you and I
EU
have very
companies.
different definitions of not that expensive. Even if you could get €2 for a pound, that's still 110 pounds of stuff.
Yeah, but it's good
Just
stuff.
trying.
Yeah.
It's not a
Sometimes
bargain
you
if you
spend that
weren't
much
going to
on
buy.
stuff.
It's not a bargain if you weren't going to buy it in the first place.
Yes, but if you're looking for
Yeah.
something along those lines, it's not too bad.
But if
You've got 2 kidneys. You can do without one. You can get a nice, fair price for one of them. You get a free motel stay and an ice bath, and then you can go and buy a box of fancy paintbrushes.
I'm immunosuppressed, I'm not doing any back alley shit.
I said it'd be in a cheap motel. That's like a step up from back alley shit.
Yep. You can even go front alley if you like.
So I got... Should I talk about that? Should I talk
Idols of Torment? Of course you should.
I got...
We all love Jeremy.
Yes. Jeremy is the uncle your parents say to worry about, and then they can't come up why we should worry about the guy who's got a full-time job, paid off mortgage, seems to have personally effective health care for themselves.
Well, he is Canadian, so he's kind of got that anyway.
Yeah, like Jeremy seems like a functioning adult outside
That's
of
something that I
stuff.
don't really aspire to.
but it's still like one of those things of he also makes little monsters and makes YouTube videos about it. So how do you mix these things? So he's got a Kickstarter for his game Idols of Torment. It looks like if I had the money, all the money, and could just buy exactly and only what I want, the best way to do that would be the all-in one, as that gives you the STLs for the creatures, the STLs for the game markers, a physical rule book, and a physical deck of cards. I think you get something. Oh, and that. But doing the all-in also gets you a plastic sprue of all the game markers, which I'm ambivalent about. But doing it piecemeal and getting all those things together is only $1 Canadian cheaper than the all-in. With that said, the whole game's miniature agnostic, and I'll probably just buy the €15 or 15 Canadian dollar digital rulebook.
Okay.
And then that hurt, but it was worth it to spin around excited. So the game uses 8 markers as lost souls you're going to go reap and harvest.
Yeah.
And then you have 8 or 9 warriors. I'm going to say 9 warriors, and then a 10th one that's an idol. So, of course, I want to get a pack of 8 guinea pigs from Bad Squiddo, and her 9 gunny pigs to be the warriors, and her Lance Cappy Cameron to be the idol. As well as use Mollog of Mollog's Mob for an idol, and then a bunch of squigs to be the things they harvest, and then a bunch of goblins to be the warriors.
Nice.
I have 2 warbands I want to do for this, and I can because it's a miniatures agnostic game.
Very cool.
The scenery he's been building on his channel for it has been absolutely superb.
But did he build the scenery for the game, or did he build the game for the scenery?
I think it might be a bit of both.
He does have a how to play video that's about half an hour long and doesn't. And I watched, and I'm sure it was half an hour, but I never went, speed up. So that was really well done.
I've got no idea what any of this is about. Some YouTuber? What's the name?
Black Magic Craft.
Oh, it's Black Magic Craft.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, you never said that at any point. You just said Jeremy.
This is Black Magic Craft.
Black
this is
Magic
Jeremy,
Craft. I know
the guy
Black
with the
Magic Craft.
original How to Paint with Shaky Hands video.
Ah, right. Okay. I'm with you.
I find the best way to paint with shaky hands is to ask Amy very nicely.
Yes.
Some people
I'm
want
aware.
to chew their own
I'm
food,
aware.
Tammy.
That's just a waste of energy. Just stick it in a blender and bring me a funnel.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that sounds good. Kickstarter, new game.
Bunch of
Interesting.
creepy monsters that are harvesting souls. Bunch of confused looking souls that they harvest, and the rules
That is my aesthetic.
they dictate how the souls move around the board and change pieces of the board.
Cool. Sounds good.
Slap Cop. Amy, have you been editing the
I have
slideshow?
Tammy wanted us to talk about Slap Chop, the new painting technique.
Well, it's not really a new painting technique. It's what a lot of people have been doing since Contrast came out.
So, I watched the start of a video and I just ended up flicking through it of someone doing slap chop. But have loads of YouTubers been talking about this? now?
Yeah. I think it's because contrast paint, you've had GW's contrast paint, and then you got the Army Painter one, and then you got Greenwash, the Green Stuff World with its dipping inks, or whatever it's called.
Something like that, yeah.
So now it's contrast paint isn't just like a niche thing. It's kind of like hobby wide. So people have actually been adopting it because I mean I'm sure we're all aware that there were a lot of people that resisted the idea of contrast paint when it first came out, giving it the it's not proper painting, it's cheating type vibe. Which
Weird.
there's always people just bitching about if you haven't just hand blended absolutely everything on the model, then you're not a real painter kind of bollocks.
So my first experience, my first awareness or whatever of Slap Chop was the YouTube video where somebody went into this whole thing about how they traveled to the Far East and under the tutelage of harsh Oriental Kung Fu masters, they learned the secret techniques of, and it screamed of like the Big Trouble in Little China problems that we have now, and that's like, I want to say it seems harmless in the small scale, but I'm also aware I'm probably the wrong person to say what is and isn't stressful for people to hear. So
I have my way of doing
I think
things.
it's an
you have
unfortunate.
yours.
I think it's an unfortunate choice of name.
It is.
And then the second thing with it was when I posted minis to the Mortal Realms group of Night Haunt I'd painted. Somebody insisted that I hadn't actually really painted these. I'd used contrast paints, and I was lying about only using the paints in the magazine because this is what Slap Chop looks like, and that's what it means. And I should learn to paint with real paints like the ones in the magazine. And
Gatekeeping wankers
God.
are they are the worst thing about this hobby. Even worse than Games Workshop when it fucks up.
so my real reaction to this has just been that it's a stupid thing people say, and I don't want to hear about it. But
See, what interesting...
Tammy wants to talk about it, so I went and watched videos on it.
Well, I thought it was interesting that it's being touted as this new technique, but it's what pretty much most painters that I know have been doing ever since Contrast came out, and it's just get the base colours on quick, and then you go back in and with your highlights, but it gets the colours on the models quick, and the paints seem to have improved, and people are getting used to them. So now the results from it are a lot quicker and easier than through the more traditional
The
way. I mean,
paint
there's
style way predates contrast paint.
Yeah.
You used to do it with like shades and even like just watered down standard paints. It's not really hugely new.
Which
Contrast
is-
paints are, it's the most convenient way to use them.
Yeah, and if what it's doing is making reasonable quality miniatures attainable for newcomers, these are new people in the hobby, and the hobby is just going to grow.
I don't object to people doing it. I'm just frustrated with. A friend insisted that they couldn't paint minis until contrast paint came along.
Yeah.
And it's like, why not? And they had a reason I don't want to disclose or give away, but it was just sort of, so how has this changed being able to put paints on the models? And they couldn't, the answer just, it felt like something about the paints, something about being told it's easier to paint minis like this meant they were able to paint the minis, but it wasn't actually any material change to the thing. It's like, I
mean, I think with
you
contrast,
can do better.
When it comes to like the traditional style, it's the minis can look not good, while you go through the early stages. Whereas
thick
with
layers of paint, that's the main problem.
Yeah,
I mean, you can still get the paints too thick with contrast paints.
Yeah.
You can still have them pool and cover details, but you don't get the same kind of. But everyone uses that standard picture of the space marine that's got like so much paint on him you can't see any of the details anymore.
Oh God, I remember being 18 or 12.
What's the difference?
18, you don't show anyone your minis. 12, you show people the minis you paint. 18, you're still dipping the whole brush into the pot.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but I think with contrast, you get to see you get a better picture of the finished thing sooner in the process, and that's encouraging for people who are new to the hobby or who just want to batch paint stuff. I mean, if you need like 50 zombies for a game of Zombicide or something, then it's gonna feel less of a stress if you can actually see the highlights and the shades coming through as you put the paint on the models. It's going to be good for the hobby, and the name is unfortunate. I mean, surely they could do like a pun on contrast.
We could just go back to calling it glazing with underpainting, which we were doing until like last year.
It's a simple technique that's had a bit of a rebrand, and it's having something of a renaissance.
I've got two snide observations.
Go on then.
One is, this is what Dana Howell was telling us to do the year that Contrast came out. Mm-hmm. So presumably she hadn't tried contrast paints when she started preparing those videos, because she had like a full-time job other than painting. So is the difference with Slap Chop that this is a guy explaining the technique rather than a girl?
It's entirely possible.
The other one, maybe that's not even it. Maybe it's that Slap Chop in the descriptions, people always say use contrast paint. Maybe the difference is that instead of glaze medium, you're using a Games Workshop branded product, which is why people think this is the only way to do it. Mm-hmm. If Games Workshop brings out a wet palette, are people suddenly going to be really excited about this new thing called a wet palette that you can suddenly use?
See, a lot of the Slap Chop videos I've seen have been using Army Painter.
But they always mention contrast, don't they?
But then, see, GW got in there
but
first.
Do they all mention Army Painter, or do they all only mention
Yeah, it's a lot of them that I've seen have been using the Army Painter version or the Green Stuff World version. I think with Games Workshop, because they were like the first to bring this as a like complete system, is that everything is now compared to that, because they are perceived as the originators of that style of painting because they got there first.
I think when it came out, Miniac grumbled something about it being just using glazes over a satin varnish. And then like a year later, he did do that. He painted base coats, and then he varnished the model with a satin varnish, And then he used glazes and contrasts and just sort of said, look, they're the same, and then did the rest of the painting. And his sort of thing was, yeah, it works, but if you want it to look like the box art, there's like 2 extra steps. It's a different way to do the same thing. I don't know. Maybe it'll go like contrast and it'll go away and I won't have to be stressed out about it.
Okay, well, that's the topic pretty covered, I think. Let's move on.
Before I say something political.
Well, I've already started, so might as
Before we
well
start
carry on.
actually slapping cops.
I don't want to slap cops. I just want them to...
Be slapped.
No, I want them
You
to
don't
like...
want them to be not slapped.
I want them to ticket the neighbors when the neighbors ignore us and dump trash in our gardens, but that's about it. Instead of leaving me condescending notes about vandalism.
Fair enough. Okay, moving swiftly on.
But those neighbors have moved out, and they've been replaced with new neighbors. And when I was coming over here, the new neighbors were cheering at the back door or something, and this was very confusing. But as I got on my bike, I realized their kid was taking their first steps.
Aww.
And the new
They're
neighbors
the
are good.
right age for you to get them into the hobby.
There might be a language barrier. But no, the old neighbors were stinky boys, and the new neighbors still have this stray noise at silly o'clock, but it's not
That's
music.
probably a child.
Yeah, it's like a child waking up at 2 a.m. instead of the neighbors coming in and making loud noises or watching action films at 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Much improvement.
Golden Demon.
Yes.
Golden Demon.
So very exciting.
What a time. It was literally possibly the biggest collection of the most impressive miniatures ever assembled. Just the quality was out of this world, and there was so much of it as well. Like, I don't feel too bad about missing out when there was like at least 6 pieces in the like each category that could have won a gold in any other year of Golden Demon. Some of the highlights, there's too many to mention really. I'm going to do a short video with some of the things that I picked out from the cabinets. So hopefully that will be up by the time this podcast comes out, but we'll see how it goes.
There were only some highlights. I would have thought all the miniatures were highlighted.
Oh yes, there was lots of highlights, but my particular highlights are the ones that I filmed while I was out there. So yeah, the Slayer Sword winner was I forget the guy's name now.
It'll be on screen,
Chris
don't
Clayton,
worry.
sorry. Yeah, obviously he's a long-time painter, and his piece, the Kraken Stomper giant Gargan.
Yeah.
Fighting against the it's not the Hydra, what's it called? It's got a name.
Monster?
It's a Charbidus or something.
Okay.
Oh, the Drakari.
Yeah.
Multi-headed,
yeah, not Drakari, but Dark Elves.
Oh yeah, one is just a fantasy version of the other.
I think it's Druchi in fantasy, isn't it? Druchi.
Is it Druchi or Druchii? Because it's 2
technically
eyes.
like Daughters of Cain and
Yeah.
Cities of Sig. They've been split up all over the place. But anyway, yeah, that was absolutely fantastic. And like, you see the pose and it looks well painted enough, but then you go in and like the Carbidus thing, like perfect white lining between all of the scales. The Gargan, he's covered in tattoos. Every one looks like it could have just been like laser jet printed onto the skin. Like the lines are so perfect, you would not believe. And really seeing it in person was just absolutely incredible, like eye-opening experience. There were so many pieces there that I just went, what? I thought I was good at painting, but apparently.
Well, you are.
Apparently,
You are. You got into.
I don't even know what painting is because
Did
some of
you
these things.
think you were good at painting, or did you think you were nearing some ceiling?
I don't know. That's a good question.
And then this like showed you that there's an attic
no.
with a chapel, and then beyond that, the stars.
Okay, almost right. I thought I was nearing a floor on which I could be considered like possibly in the range of some of the Golden Demon winners. I have not reached that floor yet. I have a way to go before that floor.
Yeah, but you still
it's
got
approaching.
2 finalists.
It's
badges.
approaching, and I know a lot of the things that would have made my entries better suited for the competition now, because I've had a chance to look and see, okay, well, that kind of thing stands out. Like, I thought, like, I went for a very... There's no fighting going on in mine. It's a very contemplative moment, and I think you can do that, but everything has to be perfect. And mine, it was like... Whereas if you do a battle scene, you can get away with it being a bit rougher out of the edges because the action kind of grabs people from a distance in the cabinets. So that's a lesson I'm going to take forward. Also, some things you can keep small. And I was amazed by the amount of things that were on tiny bases that had so much going on.
Hey, everyone knows what Oscar bait means?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. I think there was a video or trapped under plastic, and I think Ninjon either proposed or put into words or paraphrased.
To Scott.
I don't know.
Sorry. Continue.
No. So he sort of outlined details for for Golden Demon Bait, for Demon Bait. So Ninjon sort of outlined in a Trapped Under Plastic Demon Bait rules and things like, instead of it being set during World War II is one of the Oscar bait rules. He said something about you need to substantially change the profile of the model so that it grabs attention. And it needs to be like a current Games Workshop model that's still on sale.
I don't think you need to change the... I'm not...
Okay.
I can't remember the exact... I think I have heard the clip you're talking about, but...
that was like the immediate reaction to American Golden Demon this year.
Yeah,
the Slayer sword was won by the guy who did everything perfect to a stock model, and
exactly, yeah.
The initial, like the first wave of reactions was, how could he win with that? It's just a stock model. And then like the critics seeing these reactions were like, yeah, but he did everything perfect.
There's a lot of people who come up with rules for like, oh, only this can win Golden Demon. But the thing is, like, it just has to be perfect. No matter what style you do, no matter what mini, whether you could run conversions or not, it has to be perfect. Or near enough that people can't tell. Yeah. And the other thing is, I have never been a fan of Eldar. I've never looked at Aeronautica before. But after seeing Dave Perryman's, I believe it got gold in the small entry, the Eldar Phoenix Bomber, I have picked up a pack of them myself, and I'm well into painting my first Phoenix Bomber. And they're great because you only need, like, 5-6 models for an army. I could get 2 boxes, and then that's a good army. That's a good army right there.
See, I'm tempted by some of the Imperial ones, especially the Thunderhawk.
The Thunderhawk does look a good kit. But yeah, I just love how smooth he got them, and obviously mine, I'm not spending the amount of time he put into a Golden Demon entry, but I've just been trying to get as smooth as possible and just like work towards that goal at least, even if I'm not going to perhaps be putting in all the work on this first one. Could be a future entry I could look at. Maybe I could mess around with something similar.
There are other contests. There are other contests as
Plenty of
well.
others. Yep.
Why, you could just go in a habit of painting something to nearly contest level every 3 months, and then if you get up to Golden Demon, you haven't shown anyone your vampire on a stick.
The vampire on a stick is...
I don't want to talk about that too much because I know it's a secret. But
It's
just,
not a
I think
secret. I've shared loads of pictures of the vampire on a stick. So.
Well, I just want to show off my new name of Amy's Vampire on a Stick.
Good job it's not on a stake, really.
No.
That would be deeply offensive to the vampire community.
So what was the other thing to talk about then?
I don't remember because now I'm just remembering how far into True Blood I've gotten in the last week.
You mentioned that.
Yeah, I realized I broke my phone since the last podcast. It fell out of my pocket into the toilet while I was brushing my teeth. And then I put it in a container of salt rather than rice without realizing that means the salt's going to get into the charger and chart into the ports and branch across everything and get stuck, and as well seal up the phone. So anyway, new phone, and new phone battery lasts, and new phone doesn't overheat when playing videos. New phone's also substantially cheaper and from a much less well-known brand. So anyway, and I can watch little videos on my phone while painting. And this is not interesting because it's True Blood and vampire community.
True Blood, I was into it for a while, but it's just so silly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of silly in like a popcorny way, but after a while it just got too silly.
Yeah. I don't remember why I wanted to watch all of it. There's another one. Wait, no, you were telling me to press the next slide.
Yeah.
Okay, the next thing would be peer review, unless Tammy wants to tell us about Kings of War.
It looks so good. It's just... First off, all you really need to start playing is the book and some fantasy miniatures. And I've got an high elf army that I really want to paint up, but I thought I'm not really going to play it because I don't play Age of Sigmar, and I'd have to work out how all these old world units fit into the new game and everything. And then there's Kings of War, and it has this... I think it's unfair to say that it's basically Warhammer Fantasy Battle from the 90s with Warhammer Fantasy... What?
Boomer Fantasy Battle?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm ancient. Everyone thinks I'm hundreds of years old. I refuse to comment.
What's just shown up on the computer?
Oh, that's just some daft thing.
Do you have a virus that shows up random new windows?
No, just move the cursor away from it and it'll go away. It's just yeah. But, yeah, with Kings of War, it's the aesthetic of it, the game mechanics, the price. It's... I mean, this is going to sound like an ad for it, but it has that... It ticks the boxes that old school Fantasy Battle did. It has, like, the same roster with its own little twist on it. You've got elves and dwarves. You've got like high elves, wood elves, dark elves. You've got dwarves of various different factions, orcs, goblins. You've got halflings, ogres, undead. Now, their undead essentially is resurrected Tomb Kings from Fantasy Battle. And those models are damn sexy.
Out of all the armies that went away because of revisions, I'm surprised the Tomb Kings didn't come back.
Yeah, well, they're probably going to be in the box set for Warhammer: The Old World.
Maybe.
So that everyone goes, oh, Tomb Kings, new Tomb Kings.
So it's... Games Workshop sort of looks like they're sticking with things that people might be familiar with already, but are very much their own thing. And the Tomb Kings look sort of ancient Egyptian-y, which doesn't quite have the same issues as things like... Anyway, so... Actually, I can't think of anything. that they've had that's been problematic. So anyway, but so I'm surprised they haven't resurrected Tomb Kings as something. That's about it.
If you want a Tomb King's army, go find like the Mantis versions for Kings of War. I mean,
I want a Tomb King's Underworld warband.
Okay, well then make your own custom warband and let me talk about Kings of War without making this all about yourself. But yeah, it's there's plenty of videos on YouTube showing how it works. It's a much more streamlined game than Age of Sigmar, which is itself a very streamlined game. The model ranges, the aesthetic is very sort of Alan Lee.
Okay.
So it's like it takes its inspiration from the same places that Fantasy Battle did. There's a lot of Tolkien, there's a lot of historical things that have been given the fantasy twist. You've got similar rivalries as well. It's like the like some of the boxes got like goblins versus undead and
Or a lot more silly goblins.
Orcs versus halflings.
Does it have silly goblins?
It has very silly goblins.
Ooh.
It is definitely worth. And the fact that you can get the starter box, I think the recommended retail price for the starter box, which is the rule book, it seemingly is all you need to actually play, because it seems you can build your army list from just the book. So that's like, it's like a 30 quid book, but on places like the Outpost, they've got a good discount, so it's like 22 quid, and that's everything. There's not like super expensive codexes coming out every month or whatever, just for you to be able to play like a certain faction. You've got everything you really need, and it's in these box sets, starter sets. You're looking at like about £85, whereas if you've got two like full armies in a GW starter box, it's going to be at least 50 quid more than that.
I think the GW stuff is all just
The way that they do their codexes and releases, it's got to be a symptom of how their business is set up.
That's the whole topic on its own. But
Yeah. But when you look at the aesthetic for the actual game, there's a lot of similarity with like the Warhammer Fantasy Battle miniatures of like the early to mid 90s, which means that if you've got an old Fantasy Battle army, you can use it in Kings of War. It's regiment based with like the like rectangular square bases all slotted into one.
yeah.
Into like, one movement tray, and there's even a lot of people that don't even have them as separate models. They put like the entire regiment on like a scenic base, so there's that modelling element to it that's also really exciting.
I did like the idea of using trolls and random garbage in the middle of large blobs of goblins.
Yeah.
But I couldn't figure out how to also fit the goblins on, and I was, as I've complained, 18 and miserable, and couldn't figure out how to do everything the way that I thought it had to be done. So I didn't do it. Much to my regret.
Yeah, I mean, it's also encouraging me to like go down the route of more like fantasy compatible terrain.
All terrain is fantasy compatible if you're
brave. It's like everything's a dildo if you're brave enough.
Beowulf, the movie with Christopher Lambert.
Yeah.
That everyone laughed at because it was Christopher Lambert, but nobody laughed at because it was a Beowulf story. But
Beowulf.
What?
Beowulf or Beowulf.
Whichever.
It's that like Baywatch goes.
Yeah, that's actually it's a Neil Gaiman short story, because someone misunderstood what he was doing when he said he was writing a script for a Beowulf film. So he actually wrote a pilot to Beowulf.
Anyway, no, the movie. It's a fantasy movie, and everybody's running around with swords and crossbows and bows and arrows, but the swords are made out of like old chainsaws. because
okay.
it's clearly because the art style looks like somebody got confused and set it in a post-apocalyptic thing where the castle's built out of stone, but the guards are
right,
wielding
okay.
swords with chainsaw blades, or
Mhm.
and there's no steam power crap, and nobody's wearing like brass bionicles. So I don't dislike steampunk stuff, but it's gotten a bit grating on my mind.
Yeah, it's a bit over at this point.
So have your fantasy battles in Sector Mechanicus stuff. It's fine.
It's perfectly doable. I don't have much Sector Mechanica stuff.
I came across some of it when I was trying to sit down earlier.
Yes, I think that's about all of it.
Oh,
But yeah, I mean, with like the forest scenery thing that I'm currently doing as a project, I think that it's going to be quite a flexible project for gaming, and I would really, I mean, it's going to happen. Kings of War is going to happen. I'm going to buy one of the starter sets, and I'm going to be pestering the both of you to come and play it, and we can see it'll be an experiment, because so much of everything hobby based, and it's it's GW basically, most of it, isn't it? Our own hobby stuff.
Yeah.
And especially for Warpfiend and myself, very much 40k.
I've got most, and we'll have all of the Imperium collection with extras to paint and deal with,
But yeah, so I mean, I've got an elf army that I can, paint up. I've got, I'll have whatever armies are in the box set, and we can have like a proper battle and see if it's something that, we want to add to our repertoire. I'm just really excited about it. And my birthday's coming up, and I want to treat myself to something. I mean, I've already treated myself to 2 made-to-order Space Marines from GW, but yeah, I thought I'm going to cancel my Warhammer Plus subscription this year, save myself 50 quid, and then I go and spend 40 quid on 2 made-to-order Space Marines. But,
I really want that lady with all the familiars.
Yeah, she is cool, but I have got...
Did you see that one of them's like a little pot with a tongue?
I have seen, yeah, they're all based on the old familiars.
Now, what happened with the first year of Warhammer Plus, you could also purchase the other miniature.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, I assume you will be able to.
So,
I don't know
yeah.
how long they'll wait, since you can order these almost immediately, so whether they'll be out soon, physical, I don't know, but I know I'm paying upfront for another year of Warhammer Plus just to get Azrak as soon as possible.
I think Katie Plays 40k, or Katie Paints 40k, who did the flat squig on back thing. I sent you this, where she like gets the miniature, she wiggles all happy with it in front of her face, and then she puts it in the pile forever, where it will live.
Oh dear, mine certainly won't, because I already have base I've started on, waiting for it.
But it's out. It's coming out. It's not coming through for us in our little recording studio, because we're projecting onto a sheet. And I'm hiccuping.
Oh dear.
I haven't managed to get permission from the artist to name them, so I don't know if this will be here. But it's the orc on the big round. It's the orc on the cabbage dragon, but they've done something with rocks that they're fairly pleased with in their comments.
Cool.
However, what I really liked was the sort of way they stuck to almost a restricted palette, or a controlled palette. This could just be how they do all their miniatures. This could just be something everyone else is doing. And it just popped into my head. And then I opened up Facebook the day after and saw the works in progress for this.
It's the big cabbage dragon. It's got this very beautiful, gorgeous gray skin with large yellow iron plates and large yellow bits of bone, and then the orc riding on the back is in yellow armor with
I
green
think you
skin.
find it's an orc.
An orc. I'm going to be a baby boomer and continue to call them orcs. And now I want to get the picture open on the phone that I'm holding, and I will stop talking about things no one can see someday before I die. Okay, so it's big blue gray dragon, gorgeous bones, gorgeous armor that looks like it's got maybe that's a yellow contrast or a red contrast over yellow base paint. The whole thing is done magnificently, but the artist, the painter, exerted self-control that I just sort of decided I needed to start exerting myself. They chose a palette that complements and works together to make a very striking, while also not screaming down your face, bright piece.
I mean, it's very easy with a large base like that to go overboard with it and
all the colors
and have it detract from the actual model. The actual model itself kind of gets lost in it. But I think that's just the perfect level of detail on the base to complement the miniature without drawing the eye away from it.
Okay, now you got me thinking of the Mother of Nightmares I have assembled with like 6 different pieces of random terrain taped to the base. Those might not be on there tomorrow morning. Because I haven't started painting that.
I mean, for like smaller models, it's fine if you want to have like a fancy base in them. But when it's like something you've paid like 80 quid for, and then you stick it on like a really elaborate base, and it's like, well, what's the point in paying 80 quid for the model when the base is like overshadowing it?
I know there's a named character this kit can make. I checked the heads, and the head of the dragon is different on the named character, so I think this isn't the named character, but I could be wrong.
It's like the something of Gork. The mouth of Gork, the hand of Gork, or maybe of Mork. Because in Sigmar it's still Gorka Morka, isn't it?
Yeah.
This model, this one I think is Mega Boss on Maw Crusher.
Yeah.
Probably should have said that at the start because this section might not make as much sense to an audio listener.
Yeah.
This model, this one I think is Mega Boss on Maw Crusher. So it's Sengcha, Seng, and then the second name is Chea. I don't know which I don't know which style of pronunciation I'm failing to pick up with that.
Yeah.
So you should correct me in the comments. But the
No, why am I looking at the messenger? Anyway, so it's a Mog. It's a. Oh god, I'm gonna do the whole thing again if I'm not careful. It's a Mega Boss on Maw Crusher. The artist sculpted a large amount of rocks for the base. The Maw Crusher itself is a bluish gray with bony tooth protrusions everywhere coming out, and yellow with, I think, some sort of orange wash armor plate that matches the orc riding, who has the same sort of armor, along with some black dags on the plate and on their plate. And then the orc is green. Doesn't need to be crazy, but the whole composition of the palette and the rock works together. And as Tammy has pointed out, while it is a very tall base, it's not overly distractingly detailed. So this thing will definitely stand tower over the army without distracting us from the army.
Well, for mine, because my stuff is mostly terrain, I've gone for a terrain project that's in the works at the moment, and it's by Eric's Hobby Workshop. And it's like a 3-video project. The first 2 are out. Essentially, he's taken the Kill Team Into the Dark aesthetic and he's translated it into like a playable chunk of a Space Hulk. And it's on numerous levels, and it's like this big like block of foam, but then like below like the main level there's like little corridors and stuff. But the coolest thing is that one of the sides is a gallery looking out to space, and he's done like a really cool sort of backlit starfield with like a nebula idea.
Very nice, yeah.
And he's used a Battlefleet Gothic Space Marine ship as like
cool.
a forced perspective miniature. So on this board you've got like the sort of the what you see in all the artwork, the massive like Gothic spaceship windows, and just looking out onto this forced perspective
very cool,
vista, and it's absolutely incredible. It's the sort of thing that I've been thinking of doing, but I wasn't sure about the logistics of building a Kill Team board that way. But now I know that if I'm going to do something like that, I know how to do it, and it's a fantastic project. The first video basically focuses on like the whole gallery piece, and then the second one is more on the making like the corridors and the hangar base, like the dual level hangar, and there's a lot of really cool design work, but he's also managed to keep some of it modular in order to keep the playability fresh. But that he opened with a bang on that gallery. That gallery scene is just wow.
Nice.
What the viewers and Tammy probably can't see is that Amy and I are now looking at the video on my phone out of Tammy's line of sight. And he's using everything in sight. It could almost be Bill Makes stuff.
Yeah, he's using like the Zone Mortalis stuff. He's using the scenery from the
He's got some
box. He's even got some of the old original Necromunda tiles in there.
I'm looking at these like toy pipes he's got glued to everything that are bright rainbow colors and are going to end up grimdark and oil stained. He had something earlier that looked like he was creating his own Zone Mortalis walkway out of webbing or wire mesh.
Very nice, yeah. It's very, it's got that very engineered feel to it.
It's this sort of Borg, everything's overgrown, but it's not been overgrown intentionally on purpose. Look of wonderful 40K and horribleness.
Looks really cool, yeah. I'm probably going to take a bit of inspiration for that for a few.
I do at some point want to do like a Space Hulk board. Not necessarily. I mean, something that can work with Kill Team, but also something where you can play like small games of 40k. I think that would be really cool. Like you have like Space Marine Breacher teams, and it's like full of Nids or orcs looting it or something. Like have a like very sort of close set, vicious combat game, but with like a little bit bigger than a Kill Team thing.
Yeah.
Luke APS had the video where where he did battle boards on the back of picture frames like that.
Yeah.
Which I adore and want to do that. But yeah, just the big lumpy giant Kill Team boards.
See, I need to like restrain my planning for a lot of projects that I want to do because of storage space.
I know that feel.
Or lack thereof. So every time I feel like making a big piece of scenery, I'll just look around and say, right, what can come off a shelf and go into the loft? In order for me to make this thing and fit it somewhere.
My friend's
Yeah.
got like a 10-liter tub that she's got all her mini painting stuff in.
Yeah.
Opens it up, and it's like curry container full of paint, curry container full of the various bad Squiddo miniatures, and
Yeah.
curry container full of the
Nice,
terrain
nice.
stuff.
Well, it's been
Traumatic?
lovely,
Exhausting.
Exhausting, yes, I will definitely say that. I hope you've enjoyed this, though. We've had a nice little chat, even if
Friends,
we are all in various stages of falling to pieces.
we recorded it in one take,
Yes.
and there's no point where I got ranty about stupid crap. Wait, no, there was.
I don't think we'll have much to edit out of this, but
Just lots of ums and ahs and silences and yeah.
yeah, that's just real life, though.
Oh.
Well, we'd like to thank you all for listening, if you've listened, and if you haven't, then fuck you. You can't hear me.
That's a bit harsh, but I understand you're still adjusting to normal human levels of
To life
socialization and sleep.
outside of
Yeah.
the institution of Golden Demon. Amy's been institutionalized.
Adieu, monsieur.
I don't know what that means, but
No, me neither. It's
It
French.
means adieu,
Goodbye.
adieu, monsieur. It's
yeah, that doesn't help, Tammy.
Oh, it's not monsieur, is it?
I don't-
Monsieur.
it's monsieur as in Mister.
Yes, yeah.
Adieu, monsieur.
I put that in one of the slides because we were gonna hit that end of it, and it just sounded cool. And
Guten Abend.
I think this is the part that I usually superimpose the picture of
Abend's
my
afternoon, isn't it? What's evening?
Abend is evening.
Oh, Abend is evening. What's
Guten Abend.
afternoon then? I thought there was another one. Guten Morgen. Guten Abend. Or maybe good night. I'm
It's
thinking.
probably Guten Tag. It's like it's day, whatever.
Yeah.
Daylight. I don't know mornings or afternoons or evenings.
There is only light and dark
Yes.
in the podcast with more chronic back injuries than the leading brand.
We are an off-brand back injury specialist.
We are an off-brand hobby painting podcast for the hobby painting enthusiast. However, unlike the leading brand, who boasts more septum piercings and pancreatic pumps, we have chronic back injuries. Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
whatever's wrong with Amy.
Everything's wrong with me.
Oh, back injury as well?
Usually. My back's okay at the minute, although I have almost pulled my neck out a couple of times.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That's
Become
what
a
I should
mollusk.
do.
That's what I'm gonna do.
That's what I
Right,
should
okay. Okay, we need to wrap this up. So
Why?
thanks everyone, because I'm on sleep.
I wanna
the
pee.
People at home probably want to get up and go to the toilet as well.
They
Assuming
can. They're
do
not
listen.
real time. They could pause.
They cannot pause. We're not allowing them to. Okay.
Is that an
right.
option?
I hope.
Is that
We
like the
can now
unskippable sections
control
on DVDs?
time.
No, is that like the unskippable sections on DVDs? Can we switch that button on YouTube and prevent people from pausing?
That would be good. We could just like.
That would be infuriating, and
video.
people would not want to associate
We
with
could
us
pay
ever
for the
again.
video to be an advert. They have to watch like an hour-long podcast video to get to their regular content.
You know what we can do for like £5?
What's that?
We can pay Tumblr to force people to look at our videos.
Okay.
It's called Tumblr Blaze. Tumblr really thought it was going to be used for bands, but instead it's just people like,
You're one of the
hey,
few people I know who still talks about Tumblr. I can't believe it's even still a thing.
I thought I was retro painting up some Rogue Trader Marines, but no.
Next, we're going to put the podcast up on MySpace. On MySpace.
I was thinking of transmitting it
Amy, we do-
via
do.
telegraph
We
cable
do
under
have a
the
Tumblr.
Atlantic.
Yeah, we do have a Tumblr.
we do have a
yeah.
Tumblr, and it tumbles our things, and there's no cats, so no one
But
cares.
do we have a Telegraph account? Where we can just transmit this as dots and dashes
What,
across the
you
world.
mean the Oh, no.
Telegram then. Telegraph, okay. Yeah. Okay, let's try this one more time.
No.
Bye.
I've been Amy.
I'm begrudgingly Peter.
I'm continuing to be the Autumn Witch.
And we are Bleeding Tree Gaming, and thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.